learning about the preprocessor. So what is a preprocessor? Preprocessors are statements that are executed before the other statements in the code are executed. So they basically define constants and macros just like the previous constants in C. So first off, we have the hashtag define. So the hashtag define assigns symbolic names to the program constants to be later used as constants. So the declaration, as you can see, is you have your hashtag define, and then you write your preprocessor name, which could be anything, and then you write your value. So later you can use yes instead of using one. So if you want to use a boolean, then you can just say yes when you're saying true instead of writing one or true. Arguments and macros. So these are used to preset many functions into your code, and you can later use these as macros. So again, you do your hashtag define, your preprocessor name with a variable, and then your functions. So in this case, we named it square x. So what this does is whatever number you put in x, it just squares that by multiplying by itself, as you can see right here. So if you put in 2, square 2, then x becomes 2, and it's 2 times 2, which is 4. So you can also use macros from other macros. So the hashtag define macros we use can be used to initialize other macros, and the order does not matter. So for example, you can use hashtag define e, and then you have your values for the mathematical constant e, and then you can do 10e by doing hashtag define 10e, which is our constant name, and then you just do 10 multiplied by e, which is previously defined. And this order does not matter. So theoretically, you could put hashtag define 10e, 10 times e, on top of hashtag define e, and it still works because preprocessors all run at the same time. And the hashtag operator. So this can be placed in front of a macro definition to create a string from that macro. So what you can do is hashtag define string x and then hashtag x, which is a special format, and then you can just use this as a string converter. So normally you would be saying printf and then quotes you would be writing hello world to turn that into a string. But instead, in this case, you can just use string, that are function that we made earlier, and then you can just put hello world inside it. So this highlighted in yellow turns string A or string hello world into hello world, and that gets printed out. And then we have our hashtag include function. So these are used to import system files and system headers that are used for basic operations. For every code we've done, we've always used stdio.h, which is standard input output, and then .h means header file. And these can also be used for file handling. So this is how you import your header files. You just do hashtag include, and then you use these, and then you use stdio.h or whatever you have, like math.h or anything. And then when you want to use import text files that are locally based on your system, you do hashtag include, quotes, and then you write your file name .txt or .h, whatever you have, and then end quotes. Okay, so now that we know how preprocessors work, let's make a super quick and simple program to see how they actually work inside your code. Okay, so I'll write out the code and then I'll explain it to you guys. Okay, so here we have our code ready, and so let's run this and see what we get. So when we run this, it asks us e to the what power do you want. So let's just say we want to do e squared. So you just put 2, click enter, and then we get 7.3890. So let's check it real quick. So e to the square, as you can see right here, is 7.38905, which is exactly what we had right here. So how this works is, what we do is we start off by saying hashtag include stdio.h, which is used for standard input output. So we have input right here, and then we have output right here and right here. And then later we use hashtag include math.h, which is also a system file, as we can see by these. And this is to use the power function, which is our exponent. So what this power function does is, we'll get to it later. And over here we define our hashtag string converter, and then we define our e constant right here. So we define e to be 2.718, which is, as you can see right here, e is 2.718288182, and so on. So then we go on to our integer main function, which we always have done, and then we define a variable named power, which is right here, integer power, and then we print out to the user, and then we tell them e to the what power do you want, and then we scan their input. And normally over here we would have to do in quotes %i to indicate that it's in string, but instead we can just use our string function that we made right here to make %i into a string, and then we take what the user enters and send it to power. So that's the power we want to multiply e by, or exponentiate. And then over here we print our string, which is %f because it's an integer, or a float because it's 2.718, so to the power it becomes a float. And then inside our %f we want this to be go, so this is the power exponent function, and then e to the x power, so e to the 2 power, e to the 3 power, and etc. And then we return 0. So when we run this, it asks us e to the what power do you want, so we could put something like 4, and we get 54.598. And then just to check, we have e to the 4 power is 54.598, exactly what this answers. Okay guys, thank you for tuning into this video, and hope you guys had a great time, and hope you learned something about the preprocessor. See you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe. Bye.